Welcome to another episode of Rooster Talk. I've got Mo Mughal here from Dubai. Mo, you and I had a chat probably in the midst of COVID, and now we're sort of out and release. We just had a chat, and you mentioned that the fact that Dubai is basically open for business. Mo, what's been happening?
Absolutely. Well, what can I say? March seems like a lifetime away. Over the last sort of 6 weeks or so, Dubai's really opened up. We're back in business. The UAE generally as a whole country now. Everything's open. Commerce is open. Government officials are all back into work 100%. And all sports, water parks, beaches, gyms, restaurants, bars, everything's open apart from nightclubs. So everything's back to normal. And but it's all, you've got to be very safe as well. Basically, you've got to be keeping social distance at play. But people are pretty well behaved here. They're very well behaved. They're not like you see in the UK where I'd say beaches are going to be piled up. People all maintaining their sort of 2 meter distances. I think that's down to two things. One, the majority of the groups that we see here and the public are expats, and they all want to behave, and they're here for work, so they all listen, they all do a great job because they want to stay here longer. So yeah, you do get fines, and there are some fines, and they're very heavy fines, so that's another reason why people actually listen, because I think it's nearly about a $500 fine equivalent for not wearing even a face mask when you're out in public. So it's and then the second time round, it's jail effectively. So it works.
So in terms of we in Australia we're experiencing what would you call almost a resource boom. All the small caps companies, the ones you and I were working with before. All in anticipation of sort of gold price rising, or commodities very buoyant. Are you seeing that in the business side of things in Dubai? I mean, we had a conversation about how things were moving as usual, and so what's happening now?
Okay, interesting you said that. I said on my last podcast with you as well that things were ticking along from an investment perspective. It's just that people were sitting in their homes and doing their due diligences. Now, things haven't changed in many corners, I'm glad to say. The first 6 months of this year, from this region, this is reported even by the likes of Bloomberg, you can Google it, $25 billion was invested globally from this region. Okay, this is from a sovereign and conglomerate perspective. So there's been a flight of money from this region going globally to safe havens. When I say safe haven, I'm talking about US dollar, Europe, UK, Australia, but many, it's going into assets which clearly show value at this stage. As you know, the stock markets have had a bit of a correction already now from the tumble of end of March, but during that sort of quarter, they were just cleaning up. Groups out of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, even some of the groups, the sovereigns in the UAE, Oman, Kuwait. In fact, all the GCC countries that we represent have been very active. I can't say everyone. Maybe I should say, I'd probably say about 60% of the groups have been very active. And I'd say the remaining have been cautious, restructuring, and in a daily liquidity type of perspective, picking up bargains. But majority of the people are looking at long-term hold. They want to be here to make sustainable growth. Now's the time to buy it. Their sort of ethos has been, why shall we come back in the market in September, October when everyone else is in the market and then not being able to see value, right? So it's been a very busy summer for most people. People haven't taken many breaks, and a lot of them can't, okay, because the travel restrictions in other countries. But Dubai airports are open now, so people can go. But a lot of people decided, no, you know what? We've got to utilize this period to actually continue work. There's a lot of good work that we can do. I've picked up a lot of really interesting projects. For example, in our group and our representatives that we have, the consultants that we work with. So we've got some pretty top projects still that we're working on, and we're still getting traction in the region. And these are all international. We have nothing regional that we look at, as you know. So So business is ticking along, and I'm very glad. So I'm just glad I'm in this part of the world and not in Europe and the UK, which is where I'm originally from. There's still a lot of appetite here, but yeah, all depends on the right opportunity, as you know. You're talking about small companies there. You mentioned briefly about gold. Ironically, I've had 3 calls over the last week from investors in this region who are looking for gold projects. I've actually got some feelers out there already in Australia and in Canada, saying, guys, we've got we've got a group here who's got nearly $500 million that they want to invest into gold projects. So we are serious about that, and they've got chief geologists already on the case to do their DD. I've actually had discussions with them, and they want to bring the gold to Dubai, ironically. So they're not this particular group I'm talking about. They're happy to have exploration or near to production, basically. So, which goes back to what I just said, full circle, about people are back in business.
Mm. And those guys who are, I mean, gold is obviously the thing that everyone runs to, and I do agree with all the pundits out there that the gold sort of mood price is going to go north a lot more than where it is today. I mean, I've had even looked at uranium was running and moly was running, and anything that you could think of was running. So the sentiment here is riding really high. I haven't seen this kind of sentiment for decades in some ways. In Dubai, in the Middle East, I guess oil is sort of a big thing, but I think that's done a recovery of such. So, and we spoke about this before, that is not going to end in our lifetime or very near. But what is the sentiment on that side of things?
People are still bullish because there's still fracking to be done, and there's still new exploration projects that are still being discussed even in this region. I had a call yesterday with one of the national groups in Bahrain, and they specialize purely in oil and gas. I actually asked them the same question: how are you guys doing? Small island, have you seen that curve? Because we all know about Saudi still expanding and Qatar being the richest nation in the world in terms of gas. But I wanted to find out from Bahrain. They said you'll be surprised. We're moving to fracking, gas explorations. They're right next to Qatar, so they're saying we're finding new discoveries, which will make them even richest countries going forward even over the next 10 years. So oil and gas, you're right, it is their number one priority, but it has made a recovery, as you said. But they're investing more and more into other sectors within the oil and gas sector. Renewables is becoming very, very, very popular here. As well as I do, we looked at a tire recycling facility. That's come back. It keeps coming back every 6 months. We keep getting more and more people interested because this is coming from the top. And renewable energy, you can find oil and gas is there, but they've got so many huge sustainable issues that the groups in this region need to look at, and the governments need to look at. Battery, electronics, everything, waste to energy perhaps as well. There's a lot of initiatives that people are now looking at outside of the oil and gas. Having said that, electric cars aren't exactly, day-to-day stuff here. Everyone's still riding in their oil-driven cars. And I think as long as that is still the case, there's still going to be a huge demand for oil. So, everyone bounces back. So I think that's what's happened here. Things are going back to normal, but they are expanding. Even in the oil and gas sector, we're getting more and more interest from the investments, so CIO offices here, for family offices, into things like midstream oil and gas. So we're not talking about purely upstream and downstream. We're talking about technologies into gas, oil and gas. I'm representing one client, for example, out of Texas at the moment, in Houston, and they've got nearly $1 billion worth of funds that they've sort of put together. It's a sort of a fantastic track record of 20 plus IRs. And these guys purely invest into technology within the oil and gas sector. There's a lot of interest in this region. The groups of Aramco, they're not going around buying upstream or downstream around the world, but they would still look at technology in the oil and gas sector because it's an area which you can still make up to 60-70% margin, some of these technologies that can bring to the region. So that's still very favorable.
Yeah. I guess, one of my questions was going to be on EVs, but I think you've answered that. In terms of like IT and technology, there was talk with the Saudis sort of realigning their focus away from oil. Is that still on?
Absolutely, very much so. I'd say it's pretty much the number one investment sector outside of real estate. Still, real estate still is number one, but outside of real estate, I'd say technology is a number one investment sector that most companies look at. Now, when I say number one sector, I don't mean IT per se. I mean IT in any industry. So, as I give an example, IT in oil and gas. That's one type of projects we can look at. There's also IT in, what you would say, IP-rich sort of companies in the world. And IP basically means technology. There's a huge opportunity in those sort of things. IT in things like prop development, property development, IT in those sort of things. IT is huge, even blockchain-wise. Dubai wants to become the number one blockchain city in the world. It prides itself as a 21st century city, and everything wants to become paperless one day. And we're in a, when you talk about Saudi just there, you've got and there's less dependency on oil and gas. You are right. There's a new city being developed just north of Jeddah near the Red Sea called Neom. You can Google it. It's going to be state of the art. Everything is going to be technology led. Absolutely everything. And any group who wants a home in technology wants to be there. And it's like a whole, what you would say, I wouldn't call it a city. It's more of an emirate. It's more of a state that's going to be built. And it's going to be the home of technology, like Silicon Valley, basically, of the Middle East. So there's a huge drive for those sort of things. So yes, you're right. Going back to your sentiment, there is a massive drive moving away from other sectors and looking at technology. It's a big drive across all sectors here. The first thing, Sheikh Mohammed, the ruler of Dubai, he's made it a big focus. They've got blockchain city in the middle of Dubai and Emirates Towers, and they're very active. And a lot of the homegrown conglomerates and service sectors are being given grants, they're being given initiatives to take that next leap forward in technology as well. So it's a big drive. You can see it everywhere.
In terms of investment, I guess we talked about this many times. The investment in Middle East is sort of going out and trying to bring it back to home. Is there a increasing or more investment where they would go out and say, invest in a mine that's not in the Middle East, or invest in a project that's not in the Middle East and just do it as an investment case as opposed to bring it back to motherland kind of thing?
There is still a percentage of that, and that hasn't changed. And it's really for a couple of reasons why. People want to move upstream, right? Especially in the mining sector. The calls I had this week on gold, they don't want to bring the projects there. They have no reason to. They'll even look at things like DRC, in terms of a mine, Australia, anywhere really. They even told me Asia. If you've got something in Papua New Guinea, we'll look at it. Why? Because they want to bring the gold to this region. They've got the big gold facilities here. So, and Dubai being a security banking sector, in terms of a world-class sort of a structure they've put together and built, they're happy to bring the gold to this region and from here trade it out. So they're looking at it from upstream and downstream, vertically integrate the whole thing. So absolutely, yes, you are right. Outside of gold, I have to admit, there is appetite which I've got for recently for rare earth minerals as well. Right, so the rare earth minerals is something that's also lithium, rare earth minerals. It's not just gold that we've had people knocking on our door on. So yeah, they would invest outside, absolutely. They don't have to bring everything here. I think only when you look at certain projects, like for example, a recycling plant or something that this region can really benefit from. There's no way you can put a whole mine in this region, right? It's not going to happen, right? The mine has to be where it is. But a recycling plant, you can take the intellect and you can do a copy and paste, bring operations to this region. So for those sort of things, yes, it does make a big difference. being on the same board with an international company and taking the GCC exclusivity. But for mining, it isn't going to work.
Is this a new phenomenon? Because before there was very sort of Middle East concentric, and then is this a new thing?
Yeah, it's evolved. Yeah, it's evolved. I've been covering this region more than 10 years on the ground. And absolutely, it's evolved every 2 or 3 years. It's interesting. I can just delve on another point. I stopped looking at Saudi back in 2015, 16, because I actually got very frustrated talking to a lot of the groups and the families there. And a lot of the sentiment was, don't show me anything unless there's a Saudi angle. We only focus on Saudi. We just don't have any interest in putting money into Australia or anywhere else. I stopped looking at it. I didn't even bother going. I thought, I don't want to waste all my time running around and realizing that's really the bottom line of it. And it was around early last year, a year and a half ago, I started getting calls from all my contacts, most of my contacts, saying, Mohamed, we're back on. We want to look at things outside. We want to look at diversification. So it's all sort of come round. Maybe it's to do with the fact that the oil prices have gone up and down and gone up again. People realize they've got to diversify. So yeah, that sort of, it is cyclical. I think people have now realized, we need to expand and look at other areas. So yeah, it has changed.
Okay. I guess in some ways, that there's talk about how the Australian economy is decoupling from the Chinese economy, and this could be sort of the natural fit to come in, because everyone's wondering, well, who else out there has this kind of sovereign fund or thing?
You got it.
Right? So
you absolutely got it.
Yeah.
You absolutely got it. And that's why we're doing really well picking some of these deals from, representing various fund managers and corporates from the US for fundraising advisory work here, because for them, it's like either do we want to go to the Chinese or would we rather go with some Arabs? So I think the Middle East doesn't like to interfere. Don't forget that. They like to be investors, and, as long as, everyone, English is not a problem in the Middle East, as you know, right? Everyone speaks English very clearly here. You don't need to have contracts drafted in Arabic, in so many international free zones. It's easy to do business here and not need a translator. So I think it's a really good sort of a find. And a lot of the times you can go and tell people in the US when they get a bit skeptical, about the Middle East and they've not been here before, say, well, it's either that or you want to lose your project to the Chinese. And they're like, no, actually, we're happy to have a few introduction meetings and see how we do with the Arabs, because they've done a great job in the West, as you know. They own so much, land and properties and, logistical projects in the US, in the UK, football teams, airports, Etihad, all that stuff. So there's so much here between Qatar, Abu Dhabi and the Saudis, football clubs. I've just mentioned that there's still talk about, Saudis buying up Newcastle in the UK even now. So there's still a lot of appetite, and they've done a good job. Harrods has been bought by the Qataris for more than a decade at least. And Madame Tussauds is owned by Dubai. So it's just an example.
Oh, they didn't buy Liverpool in
no, not yet.
Years of agony. We're finally taken the cup back where it belongs.
I agree. In fact, it was the firm that I worked for who brought me to the country. It was under Dubai Holding that Dubai Holding actually made the bid to buy Liverpool back then. So I remember there's a lot of talks.
Well, look, Mo, it's always great to talk to you. And on that note, I think it's we can sort of rest assured that I think there's a lot of things we can talk about. I mean, we've discussed this, and we've had discussions before about some of the things we've talked about here today. And I'm sort of actively looking for that. But it's good to hear that there's more, because there's more of the investment coming in as opposed to wanting to go back, because that dynamic was really hard to manipulate or to discover, I should say. Yeah,
I agree. I mean, that's work's evolved. I mentioned that to you earlier. Things have changed now to what they were before, and I think it's got real legs on it. We're really proud to be in this region and to do the work that we've built over decades now. We've got great relationships from sovereigns to royal family members. We've just won a very, very huge mandate over the weekend which my partners and I are working on at the moment, which are unbelievable. It's and I'm just glad we've got full exclusivity on the GCC on that. And if I mention that to you, it will make you jump off your chair. But I think there'll be more on this. I can talk to you off the record on that in terms of who it is to represent them in the region. Because we've basically won the agreement, but we've still got to have a couple of actual formal conversations with the principals, and the principals are they're mind blowing.
Oh,
and I spoke to a group yesterday in Qatar, and they were like, they couldn't believe it. They're like, what? And they said, yeah, we've got the mandate. So it's going to be exciting work with them as well. So we're business as usual. It'd be great to help as much as you need, Noel, and all the other companies in Australia. And let's look forward to some great things.
Well, we'll have that conversation offline so nobody else can hear about it.
So it'll become public in the next sort of week or two, I feel, but I can talk to you privately about it.
Yeah. All right, Mo. Okay. Great to talk.
Take care.
Looking forward to our next update. We'll definitely make it a regular thing because
thank you.
As I said, it's good to hear where investments can come from in new markets, especially in a time like this. But Mo, thank you as usual.
Thank you. Take care.